Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. My full name is Gabriella, but I go by Gabby, so
Okay.
welcome to call me either. I'm a third year student here at Widener, and I'm our SVA president, among many other things. I help with the communications and our social media, so that's kind of how I ended up in this role today.
Okay. You can call me Steve, by the way. I'm originally from New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn. So I graduated from Brooklyn College. After Brooklyn College, I was a junior high school teacher for about 2 years. I taught sixth, seventh, and eighth graders English, or at least my version of English. And I knew I wanted to go to law school. So uh, I applied to Widener, and I graduated from Widener in 2007. After Widener, I kind of jumped right into the workers' compensation law in Pennsylvania. That's all I've ever practiced. So I was a clerk at the Workers' Comp Appeal Board, and then I worked for a defense firm. And now, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been representing people who get hurt at work.
Okay, yeah. One of my friends actually, she just graduated from Widener in December, and that's where she ended up was in workers' comp, and she's loving it. Like,
It's nobody ever grows up saying they want to be a workers' compensation attorney. At least most normal people don't. But you can get a lot of real world, on the ground legal experience doing it. So
no,
depending upon where you are, but
yeah.
it's been really good to me.
And did you find, I know a lot of people enter law school with the idea of like, this is the type of law I want to practice, I'm going to do this, absolutely. Did that happen to you, or did you kind of have like a flip in what you wanted to do?
I flipped. When I went into law school, I thought I would be a transactional lawyer.
Mhm.
Um, I, I'm generally reserved by nature, so I wanted no part of any sort of trial court. Hello. And
Yeah.
after I did a Moot Court competition in school with a classmate of mine, and I found that I enjoyed it. And even though it didn't come necessarily naturally to me, I started looking, I was at least more open to uh, jobs that would require some type of trial skills. So workers' comp requires, I'm in court, workers' comp court at least, uh, almost every day of the week. So I'm cross-examining and taking depositions of doctors and doing everything I thought I would never do when I went into work.
I think I found myself with kind of a similar experience. I came to school and I really wanted to work in the entertainment industry at some point in my life. And I took a contracts class and I was like, no, 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 this
Yeah,
is not for me. And I ended up doing an internship in public interest and now I love it. And that's
yeah.
like my dream is to somehow, some way work in public interest upon graduation. So I think it's important to show students that you don't have to have your mind made up exactly what you want to do and how your journey through law school can really change where you end up and that to just be open to those things. And you had mentioned moot court. Did you, what was your experience like with that?
So I wasn't in the Moot Court society, but I
Okay.
took place in an on-campus competition,
Oh, that's awesome.
and I had a classmate, and I said, let's go do this. We'll lose, and then that'll be that. And we won. And so we went to the next level, and then we won. And we ended up, I think I was just asking him about this the other day. I think we were semifinalists, and we were arguing to go to the Supreme Court and argue before Supreme Court justices for like our campus final, and then we lost. So I had a really good experience, and it definitely it opened up my eyes to something I was able to do that I didn't think I was able to do before I did it.
That is so incredible. I think we find that, I know I found that in my first year of school. Like I was like, oh my God, like there are so many things didn't think I was capable of, and even just the endurance, I think, to make it through. And do you find that any of that carried over into your practice now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's been times I've walked into hearings and I thought, how am I going to get through this one? I know the judge is going to give me a hard time, or I have a bad position, and and don't get me wrong, there's certainly times I sat in my car after hearings and thought, man, I should have stayed a teacher. I would have had summers off, right? But the the process of putting it into action is a little bit addictive for me. So you maybe walking into a hearing, you don't know what to expect, and you do your best, and then you walk out the other side of it and you realize something about yourself, even now that I've been doing it for about 12 years, that you didn't know before.
Wow.
Yeah, that's addictive to me.
I think that's so awesome. It shows that you really enjoy what you do too, I think. A little bit more. So are you located still? Are you back in New York? Are you still in Pennsylvania?
No, so my wife is also a New Yorker, and when I went into law school, originally I was going to work at night and go to law school as well. And she said, I'll work you. She put me through law school, and she worked at as a receptionist in a local law firm. And over time, we just gradually put more and more roots down here, and we never left. And actually, her family came out, and we're here for good.
Yeah, I love this area. I think it's a great place. I kind of say I came full circle because my parents are from the Harrisburg area, but I didn't grow up here, and then ended up here for law school, and now I love it.
My wife and I met at Messiah, so I had a little bit of an introduction to the area, but when we were looking at places we can go to law school that we can actually afford to live, Harrisburg was great for that. And,
yeah.
Coming from New York City, it was nice to have a place to park my car. Nobody was climbing in it, so I've really enjoyed it.
Those are good things.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine she's from Staten Island, but we get a lot of students from that general area that come down to Widener, which I think is pretty cool, and it's definitely a change of pace.
Yeah, definitely. There was many students in my class that were from New York City and the surrounding areas.
Do you find that you're still in touch with people you graduated with?
Still, yeah. One of the students that beat me in the Moot Court competition is now a workers' compensation judge. So I practice in front of her all the time. And there's many people that I was in my first class with that I practice against or with, and I'm constantly seeing people around. So Widener, at least in my experience, and particularly in the workers' comp community, there are a large amount of Widener graduates that you come across.
I found that a lot in this area. There's a really nice network, which is one reason I enjoy Widener. Now, you said you've been doing workers' comp for 12 years. What has your progression through that field been like?
So I started off as a law clerk at an appeal board, which is like an intermediary body between a workers' comp judge and a Commonwealth court. So I did that for about 9 months. And then I left to start a practice as a defense attorney. I worked with a regional firm, and I did the billable hour thing, representing employers and insurance companies. And I had a good experience doing that. I definitely learned a lot, but I think over time, particularly as I started to have kids, my priorities changed a little bit, and I got rid of the billable hours. So now I've been representing injured workers for about 6 or 7 years. I can't remember now. And in terms of, I mean, it's still work is work, but it's a better lifestyle that it offers you than trying to make that billable hour requirement.
I work at a firm now that does billable hours, and then I had worked, like I said, in public interest, so I've seen the difference kind of between the two.
I know attorneys and personality types that, I mean, billable hours are nothing to them, and that, it suits them better. So it's not to say that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but it just didn't suit me.
Yeah, finding your niche that works best for you, like you said, with your personality and maybe your work style and the type of client that you like to serve.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I know I have. Did you find that you had anything that was a big struggle for you during law school?
Well, I had, around my 3rd year of law school, I had a retinal detachment. So it was actually, it was difficult, but in another way, it was pretty cool because, I had to have surgery, couldn't read. I couldn't really go to class. I had a gas in my eye, so I couldn't really see out of it too well. But I had classmates that, one in particular would come and read to me. He would read all of the assignments out loud to me.
That is so cool.
It's invaluable. It kept me plugged into everything that was going on. And I had classmates and professors that would allow me to record the classes so I could hear the lectures at home. And it was really about one semester long challenge. And once I got beyond that semester, everything kind of evened out. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without, the folks there to help me through.
That's a really great story. I always say that I've made such wonderful friends at Widener, and that our faculty really, really care about students. And I think that goes to show that that's true. And I like to think that it hasn't changed if that happened to you however many years ago, and I have that same experience now in 2020. So that's pretty cool.
We're still friends today. Our kids are the same ages and our families still hang out. So it's an ongoing friendship.
That's awesome. Oh, I love it. That gives me hope that my friends will be the same, will have the same type of experience.
I hope so, right? Yeah, friends are friends. It will be.
Oh, good. And so did you find that there were any classes or clubs or internships or anything you did that really helped you prepare for practice?
Yes. So the first, I think I was on law review. That was a great help to me. The amount of work that you had to manage in addition to your normal workload was a great precursor for the amount of work that you're going to have to manage when you're trying to meet deadlines and you have people who they're expecting things of you and they're trusting you to meet a certain standard. So law review was a great help. And then in addition to that, the clinic, I did I participated in the clinic, and given what I do now, dealing with, regular folks when they're hurt and they have problems, and there's certainly been times I've been in folks' homes. The clinic was great preparation for that. There's a lot of opportunity to kind of get that client experience there when you really have no legal experience. And when, as you come out of school and your legal experience rises, the person-to-person contact, the client contact is invaluable.
I took a client interviewing class, and I am taking another class now called Law and Mindfulness, and we talk a lot about that and how to interact with your clients and try to understand their background and where they're coming from and listen to their stories so you can help them to the best of your ability.
Yeah, it may be too late for you, but I would highly recommend the clinic for anybody who has the opportunity to do it. I mean, I was on the phone speaking in my best Spanish and, trying to communicate with folks and find translators and helping other people. It was really communal, where if people had problems, you kind of work on them together. So that was a great experience for me.
Yeah, a few of my friends, I haven't done the clinic here. I worked at the YWCA. They have a legal center. So it's kind of a similar experience, just a little more focused on one area of law. But my friends that have done the clinic speak highly of it for those reasons. Yeah,
there's a part of the practice of law. I had a boss that said this all the time, that is the counselor at law. It's the person comes into your office however they are, and you kind of take them as they come, and they come with all of their gifts and all of their problems, and sometimes you have to counsel them through what they bring in the door to get them to where they need to go. And places like the clinic is a great training ground for that sort of stuff.
Great. Oh, I remember that because actually the book we read for my client interviewing class was called Counselor at Law. There might have been more to the title, but our professor kind of discussed a similar, I guess, type of mentality with that. And I guess it goes to show your interpersonal skills are always.
Absolutely. Even when I represented employers, I mean, I'm talking to people. So, if I was dealing with an insurance adjuster, that's just a person who's trying to get through their day and do their job. And so it's just different people at different levels of life. And, if you can get a hold of that in whatever job you have, it's great talent, great gifts to have.
Awesome. And then so this is a little kind of off the law, but so if you weren't a lawyer, you said you were a teacher, is there anything else that you would have done, you think?
Yeah, a few years ago, I came across, my father was a merchant sailor. So like when I was younger, he would be sailing around the world for like 6 months and then come back. And when he would stay home, he would work on the tugboats in the New York City harbor. And there was a period in my life where I actually dropped out of college and filled out my Siemens papers and
Yeah.
was seriously considering working on the tugboats um, in New York City. And then I kind of last minute, I made the decision to go back to school and, met my wife and went a different way. But yeah, I was pretty close to be bobbing up and down on some tugboat somewhere.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even consider that that would still be a profession, I guess.
Still out there, still boats need to be pulled somewhere, I guess.
I guess that makes sense. That's really, really neat. That's a fun story. Thank you for sharing that. Do you think you could see yourself stepping outside of the workers' comp field, or do you think you'll stay there?
That's really interesting. When I first came out of law school, I was I was open to anything.
Mhm.
I would do any type of law, and I found as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more comfortable in my experience, it's much harder to do that. So you start to feel you have the comfort of your expertise, and then you start to feel the insecurity stepping out of your expertise, and it's really just more comfortable to stay within it. So I think I would be, I'm probably going to be a workers' compensation attorney, God willing, for the rest of my career. But it is something that gets a little more difficult to do the more you get used to the thing that you're doing. I think I'm kind of in it for good now. It's too late.
You're committed. No turning back. I feel like that's what once someone starts at Widener, we're like, all right, you're in it for the long haul. Like, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
It is kind of like a club in a way. It's a nice community.
It has been for me, yeah, for sure. Particularly here in Harrisburg.
I like that. Like I said, I like this area, and everyone that I've encountered through the profession so far it's been rewarding for me. So I hope that you know I can pass that on to other people, and it seems like you have that same kind of mentality that you'd like to give that type of experience to somebody else.
Sure, sure. Now, did you live downtown and go to school, or did you live near the school?
So I live right by the school. Like I could walk. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. I walk by it all the time because we're all virtual right now. So the library's open. That's about
Okay.
it. So
I lived near it too when I went to Widener. There was so much, there was a lot of housing right around it that it was pretty easy to make that decision. And
yeah,
I mean, to me, I was also trying to get away from the city a little bit, but
yeah.
it gives the unique balance of kind of a little more suburban experience, but a city experience if you want to.
And the office I work at now is downtown. So I go in about twice a week. I would do about 10 hours. So I get that feel of driving downtown and getting to be, I'm on Pine Street. So I'm right by the Capitol, which is nice, and get to have that little bit. And it's slowly starting to come back to life. I feel like I'm seeing more and more people downtown when I drive into work in the morning, which is really nice.
Yeah, it was definitely like a ghost town for a while, right? One of my favorite this is way off topic, but one of my favorite pizzerias is downtown. It's called
That was
Need.
a question I had for you, was where you like to eat.
Okay, so my family usually on Fridays too, we will stop at there's a pizzeria downtown called Need,
Oh
Knead.
yeah.
And that's the closest around here that I've experienced to New York pizza. So as I've been going down to pick up our pizzas, I've noticed how desolate it's been downtown after COVID-19. I mean, obviously, it's primarily, there's a lot of state workers who work down there, and
Hmm.
that drives a lot of the people traffic. But it's good to hear that it's getting more and more crowded.
Yeah, I see a few more cars, a few more people in suits walking around, and I really like to go to Little Amps on State Street. So,
Sure.
yeah, one of my favorite, and it's coming back to life. Their tables are out, people are sitting there with their coffee in the morning. I'm like, all right, this is good.
Yeah.
I like to see this. I guess this might be kind of an obvious question that I should have asked earlier, but how has COVID-19 and the pandemic affected your practice?
Well, actually, I was surprised to see how quickly the workers' compensation system went remote. There was probably a few weeks where you know, you're doing your best to work from your basement or wherever you are in your house. But then hearings started to get rescheduled, and at first they were occurring by phone. So that was a challenge to, you can imagine if you're injured at work and you're testifying and you can't see who you're talking to, and if you can't speak English, there's an interpreter on the line that you've never met and you can't see. So it was a little awkward. And some of the hearings are still taking place by phone, but now they're transitioning to video hearings more and more. Seems to be working from the east of the state into the central part of the state. So some of my hearings now are doing what I'm doing with you, just sitting here, and my client is wherever they are, and I could see them, and we're taking testimony and things like that via video. So it transitioned pretty quickly. What it's going to be in the future, nobody knows if it's going to stay the same, if it's going to go back to what it was. I think most people are say it's going to be some type of hybrid where video stays in the system in some way. You know, I guess only time will tell. But I'm still getting hearings scheduled into 2021 that are virtual. So.
Wow. I mean, obviously we're lucky that we have the technology to do that type of thing, but I was going to ask, and you kind of answered, if you think any pieces will definitely carry over that have maybe a better way to do something that no one realized before.
For me, I used to travel a lot. I used to, you know, if I had a hearing in Williamsport, I would be driving to Williamsport. Now I don't have to drive. So there's a positive in that, you know, there's less road time, but the negative is that it's a little more difficult to interact with your client. Particularly before hearing or something like that. And it's getting to the point now where, you know, particularly if you sign somebody up at a more restrictive time in 2020, you haven't met them. You know, most of your interaction has been on the phone or something like that. So I hope some of that changes, but the video hearing aspect has been definitely a positive.
Definitely. That's good to hear, because like you said, if you're having things scheduled into 2021, we don't know how long it'll be around. So there's a good chance I'll end up doing that as well at some point. So
yeah, I think video is going to be a part of almost every system now. We'll see, but it looks like it.
Yeah, and I think a learning curve has definitely been put in place for people that aren't used to using technology and having to learn how to use it and do their job while using it, I think, too.
Sure. I say, I think there's like the breakout stars of COVID-19 legal practice are probably the animals in the background.
Like my cat.
Yeah, there should be some calendar or something where we get to meet them a little further.
Yeah. That's really fun. We actually, one of our student organizations hosts, we call it Yappy Hour, which is a happy hour on Zoom, and you bring your pet and you introduce your pet to everyone, and it's really fun. And because especially I love animals, so I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's a nice way to stay connected, because not being on campus has really changed just how we connect with our classmates and with our professors, and we're working really hard to try and keep people connected, but it's definitely presented a challenge.
How has Socratic Method changed with Zoom, with virtual?
Still there. Yeah, it depends upon the professor. As a third year student, I don't have as many professors that do that as often as they did like my first and second year, but you still get that same feeling. They'll just say your name, like, Miss Romeo, what do you think? And you're like, oh, that's me. And like, right. They'll know, like, you can't turn your video off. And I mean, I think in a way it's a little less intimidating, just because like you're not sitting surrounded by your classmates, and like, but you still have that moment of like, oh, like even if you prepared for class, like it's happening, it's my turn, okay.
Yeah. So Socratic Method is I think will always be like that. And that's pretty similar to trial experience, because at some point, somebody's going to be looking at you and expecting you to have the answer. whether it's the judge or the client. So
Yeah, you got to give them something.
that's it.
Yeah, so it definitely it still exists, but they they'll take hands, and like there's the raise hand feature, so they'll use that, and they'll take volunteers most of the time. Most of my professors do that first before they're like, all right. Like my one professor, she's like, I have a hit list. I don't want to use it, but I will. And so I saved someone yesterday because I was like, I'll try and answer. And so I do that just to try and avoid it as a whole. But
You're nicer than me. I kept my hand down as much as I could.
it depends upon the class. I'll be like, that was in my sales and laces class yesterday, and some parts of that class totally make sense to me, and other parts I'm like, we covered this, okay, cool. Like I have no idea what's happening.
Right.
But it's enjoyable. I have Professor Meadows for that, and she does a really nice job of
I had her.
I love her. She's great. And like she has really taken Zoom on, and she uses polling and the chat feature and breakout rooms and really all of the different features to make it a little more interactive, so you feel a little bit more like you're in a classroom, because like listening to someone lecture over Zoom it's a little rough sometimes. Yeah, definitely, especially when you're at home. And I mean, I'm sure you've experienced, if you worked from home for a period of time, like you have my cat, I have distractions, all those things that pop up, or someone drives by and I'm like, oh, who's that? Or my window's open, I hear them talking. It's really easy to get distracted. So
I understand.
Yeah, we're making it through.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good one. Do you have like a most memorable moment from your time at Widener?
Wow.
I didn't write it. Someone else did. So if this is tough, I'll blame them.
Well, I'll give you a funny one. I'll give you the real one first. Graduation was a very special time for me. I'm the first lawyer in my family, and to have my parents be able to be there and things like that, that was a special moment. And I don't know if they still do this, but back then it was in the forum. So it was a nice environment. And the more funny one was I specifically remember running up towards the law review building, and I don't know how campus is now, but there was a little walkway that led into the building, and it was lined with hedges. And it was very narrow. And as I turned on the walkway, a skunk jumped out in front of me on the sidewalk. So I had stopped, and then I had to sprint the other way. I'll always remember that as well.
Close encounter with a skunk. I'm gonna have to keep my eye out. I hope there aren't any more. We actually just got a campus security alert in our email yesterday or the day before that there was a bear on campus. And so there's a lot more wildlife over there than we expect, I think.
My in-laws don't live too far from there, and there's bears in their backyard all the time.
Yeah, so. Where I grew up on the kind of the western side of the state, more central, but in the middle of nowhere. And so there was a ton of wildlife. So I'm used to it, but it's fun to see when people that aren't used to it, they get really excited.
I'm not being, primarily from New York City. I get nervous around squirrels. So
yeah, that's so funny you say that. I have family. So my dad's grandparents and some aunt and uncles lived in Brooklyn when they came from Italy, but his parents ended up here. And my dad went to college in Brooklyn. We still have some family that live there. And I'll never forget, my one cousin came to visit, and my grandmother lived in Camp Hill, and she was just floored about the squirrels in the backyard. She was just like, do you see that? And I was probably in middle school at the time, and I was like, Mom, I don't know why I don't get it. Like, to me, I was like, it's a squirrel. Like, it was a pretty.
That's how New Yorkers feel when people look at pigeons, though. So it's.
We each have our own respective animal that's pretty funny. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I'm good. Good luck to you. I wish you the best.
I appreciate that. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I hope you have a good last year here.
Thank you. Thank you. So far, so good. Fingers crossed to be back on campus next semester.
Same here. I hope it gets back to normal as soon as possible.
Me too. So, well, thank you again. And if you ever need anything from the school, from SBA or anything, please let us know. I know we're working hard to try and be in touch with alums. So
Same here.